All right, so in this lecture, we're going to start taking some of the things we've learned and begin to apply them. So I have this sort of weird, just generic shaped object that just gives them some bevels, some curves, some edges, things like that. And we are going to paint this with some shadows and stuff. And your goal is to paint this from 3 different lighting angles. So you'll do one, imagine where your light source is coming from, you know, maybe the top left, another one coming from perhaps behind, and a third one coming from below. You can use whatever angle you want, but the object of this lecture is to talk about how light works and how you can think about where your light is coming from. So to do this, I'm going to start by just painting this whole thing pretty dark. And we're going to start talking about light and directional light. All right, so we have this whole thing painted in dark. Now, like we talked about earlier, light is nothing more than particles coming down and bouncing off of objects. So, for example, if our light source is coming from up above, like this, so let's say our light is coming from directly above. Oops, let me make a new layer here. Light is coming from directly above. Then we're going to see shadows on anything that is not able to be hit by that light source directly. So we come back here to this layer. Let's go ahead and start painting this, and I'll explain to you what exactly it is I mean. So we'll get, that's probably good for a light color. And we have this layer masked off, so you don't have to worry about painting outside the lines. And we're just going to come in here and start painting this. So for example, the top side of this little fin here, that's going to get hit by light. The top side of this whole entire spherical sort of ball shape is going to be hit by light. And I'm just going to bring up my brush size here so we can paint it in like we would just a big sphere. Okay. What I'm going to do is switch back and forth between this and my eraser. I guess actually we'll switch back and forth between our brush. We'll just use this gray color here. Okay, and then just paint that back in. And let's put our hardness somewhere a little bit closer to the middle. Okay, we're going to grab this color again, bring our brush size down, get the top side of this fin as well. Okay. Let's see, we're going to have a bit of a darker shadow down here towards the bottom. Let's do this core shadow as well. We're going to have a core shadow in here. Move it a little darker. All right, and then there's also going to be a little core shadow running along each of the fins here. Excellent. We're also going to have inside of this sort of little ring thing, this little divot, that's going to be in shadow because if the light is coming from directly above, it's not going to be able to hit that perfectly. All right, and then let's go ahead and get a little lighter color here for just the inside ring. And then a little bit lighter color for this here as well. Okay, I'm going to take my line art layer. Let's lower the opacity on this so that it's not quite so in our face. We just want it there as sort of like a suggestion so we can kind of see what we're doing. All right, excellent. Now we're going to do some, let's do a little bit of reflected light here down on the bottom. So, for example, these little legs here will have just a bit of light on them. Actually, you know what? Let's have these be in shadow. So we're going to come down here. We're going to get a little bit of ambient occlusion going on. This guy's really going to be in the shadow because he's kind of on the underside there. This one here as well. All right. I think we could blend this out a little better here, so I'm going to color pick this sort of mid-gray, blow my brush size up, and we're just going to sort of smooth out that transition a bit there. Okay, and then let's do some highlights here. So if the light source is coming from directly above, the top of this is going to be lit. Going to have a little bit of light that's, whoops. Going to grab this edge here. Okay, same on the little wing here. Pick a bit of a highlight there. And then lastly, just the light from above. And then we can just make a few little cleanups here. Lighten the inside of this ring up a little bit where it's going to be getting a bit more light. And then some of the reflected light from the edge going to kind of bounce around inside of there. Oh, maybe not that bright. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then we'll want to do a quick shadow underneath as well. And then a little bit of ambient occlusion right there where it touches down, and it's going to get pretty dark there at the base. All right. There we go. So that's our first one. That's an example of kind of light coming from directly up above, and how that might look. So you're going to need to do 3 of these. And what I want you to think about is, if you need to, you can pull up reference of a ball or something, grab an actual ball and kind of hold it up to the window or light, and try and draw this, really visualizing what direction light is coming from. You might need to do a couple of these, and it might not be very good on the first try, but that's okay. That's all you're going to do 3. You're going to practice, post in the Q&A, get some feedback, and try again if you need to. So don't just copy mine, okay? The object is not just to copy what I just painted. The objective is to think about where the light is coming from and how it would react to the form. So, for example, if it was, let's see, we turn off our shadow layer really quick. I'm going to do one more quick example of just shadows so you can see sort of what I'm talking about here. Let's see if we can duplicate this layer. There we go. All right, and then we're going to turn one of them off, and we're going to select everything in this layer and just delete it. And now I'm going to imagine that my light source is coming from a different angle. So let me grab my eraser tool, and we will sketch out what direction I want this to be coming from. Let's imagine now that it's coming from this angle, something like that. Okay. What we would do is we would come over here, come to our paint layer, fill it in with just a color that we want to use. Okay. And if it's coming from that angle instead, what we might have, actually, let's do this. We'll just paint in the shadows. Like I said, it'll be a lot easier. There we go. For painting in the shadows, we would have shadows coming from, going from sort of left to right. So for example, this sort of fin here, use a different brush that's a little less streaky. Let's try this one. Yeah, this one will work. Let's just make our color a little lighter. All right, so this one coming from the side over here, we'd have a cast shadow from this fin. So it kind of forms along the side here. This whole sort of right side here would slowly begin to fall into shadow. This thing here would be in shadow. Okay, and then since it's kind of on the top side of that, just sort of barely the bottom side of this fin will be in shadow. Okay. Color pick that, and then you can come in here and start to clean up some of the edges, bring out a few spots that you think would be a little bit more lit. I don't think that would actually be catching any light back there. I mean, you could light up inside of there. You just keep working it until it looks about right where you think it should be. You know, adding more and more shadows, more and more lights. Like I said, it's something that's going to require practice, so take your time and use reference. This is one that I would really recommend too, that once you post your work in the Facebook group or the Q&A section, that you ask for feedback and then try it again, do a second pass and implement what feedback you got and see if you can get a little better. This is a skill that's going to just take time to practice and learn, but that will be well worth it when you can sort of visualize this sort of lighting aspect in your head and create accurate and realistic lighting scenarios. So anyways, that'll be it for this lecture, and I will see you guys in the next one.